I'm going to start with a poem from Moving Worlds, um, which is a journal. This is a women's Women Right Now edition. Recently, with the evacuation of the troops from Afghanistan, I've been thinking a lot about the time when I was volunteering in France with refugees a few years ago. And the day after we arrived, the refugee camp in Dunkirk burnt down, and the refugees who were there were homeless again. And I was sent to a gymnasium, a school gym, where some of the refugees were being housed temporarily. This poem was written after that. The game, Grand Centre, Dunkirk, April 2017. Once, not far from here, football unward to factions till dawn. Last night's stray ball, then flying stones, a riot of police. People flee. Afghans, Kurds, all they possess in the crease of a pushchair's rain shield, wooden homes aflame. Again, not just sweat the scent 300 bodies leave in the 2-day, 2-toilet sanctuary of the gym. People at the edges sleep on grey stretchers. A newborn takes refuge in his father's arms. So many faces. Outside, boys build a shelter from tarpaulin and sticks, having learned young the weight of such games. What is it that triggers the two who suddenly set about one another? Faces pale, they make grenades of their fists. One stamps the other's head into the dirt. We retreat until separated, they are hugged to stillness in the arms of play workers, small enough yet for that. Between them, younger children make nests from grass and Play-Doh eggs, rebuild the world in a jigsaw puzzle where all the pieces fit together, though none of them match up. I thought I'd read a few from my collection, Empires of Clay, because I've been working on my second poetry collection. So I returned to this one because I like to be contrary. This is Homestead, and it's quite a few of the ones I'm going to read are about my grandmother in one way or another. And my grandmother came from a family of tanners. Her great grandfather walked from Scotland, where he was a gardener, and set up a tannery business on the streets of Leeds, and then eventually set up the Oak Tannery in Kirkstall. And those of you who know anything about tanneries will know that tanning is a horrendous business for those people who work in it. So I'm often thinking of that, the guilt, I suppose, that my family carries there. This is Homestead. In the dented leather chest she'd taken to boarding school, I found a farm with tin animals as small as my fingernails. 2 cows, 5 pigs, a horse, and a whitewashed barn with a red roof. I didn't expect the baboon, which must have escaped from a zoo or some other safari set. Its claws were disemboweling a pig, and it was baring its teeth at the horse. I imagined it sneaking up on the cows at night, skinning them while they slept, like my grandmother's father, who defleshed so many hides he bequeathed a small fortune, liming the family pockets in cyanide. Because my grandmother was a woman, She didn't see much of this inheritance that that came down. There was little bits left, so there was bits of jewelry. I think the females in the family got 1% of the inheritance, and the boys got something like a lot more. um, so this is Pamela for my grandmother. She spoke like Thatcher and rose at 6 to feed the birds. She did not like starlings. She grew emeralds from her fingers, planted pansies and affections, tangoed with other women's husbands, leapt the street's hedges like a grand national veteran, pursued but never caught. A tennis champ who jilted an officer on their wedding day, she kept her baby secret, bound her close as a soiled bedsheet, but could not give her up when it came to it. When we used to stay at my grandmother's house when I was younger, we stayed in this room with all this dark, very, very dark furniture. And there was a very, very big picture of Jesus on the wall. It says, Jesus lives. Jesus has treacly eyes and lives in my granny's spare room. When we come to visit, this is where we sleep. There's panelling on the walls, a tottering wardrobe and a mahogany bed, corrugated at the foot. It's huge. Put it this way, the BFG has nothing on this bed. My sister says Jesus' eyes are evil. I say he's sad because we don't believe in him, but jump just as high at the stairs, sudden crack. It's Granny, juggling lumpy hot water bottles. She leans on feather pillows, offers talcum-kissed cheeks. Then, the chime of a ghost bell. Granny's dead schoolmistress, ringing for her as she returns downstairs for ginger beer. We go back to considering Jesus, who thinks he's being helpful by watching over us at night. Our limbs petrify. Still, when sleep steals her, I seek out the answers in those treacly eyes. This poem was written during NaPoWriMo. I don't know how many, put your hands up if anybody's had a go at NaPoWriMo, where you spend a month writing poetry. Quite a few of you. It's quite a task. I don't usually get through the whole thing. The exercise was to take a poem in a language you didn't understand and to write a poem in response. So it mirrors the form of this Alphonsus de Guimaraen poem, and it also takes a line from that, which I have to say I could cheat a bit because I know enough Italian and French to be able to guess roughly what it means. So forgive me for this terrible Portuguese if anyone's a Portuguese speaker. Calmo allo largo della noche lenta scribo insomni. That's the line that inspired it. It's the war is lost. In this panelled room, once grand, our uniforms hang from the rafters, bats with drying wings. Each man has retreated to his own edge, unbearable stories swelling his tongue to silence. The room hums with human waste and charred remains. All the trees shattered to firewood, but nobody can bring themselves to set a fire. Be still in this slow night, son. Write insomnia with me. Nightmares have teeth, and the bearskin offers uneasy comfort. I tell you of our desolate lives, how our plight mortifies these walls. We are their sorrow and their focus. Sitting in the foundations of all we have built, I would beg God to finish me, but they gave me the only blanket. Behind my bandaged eyes, I see your woven jacket as plumage dipped in the dawn. Father, you say, I shall scribe this in verse. And sometimes that's all we can do, isn't it? Make the best of the blankets we're given and write it down somehow. Just going to read a couple more. This is secondary school art, and it was part of Karen Denison's Blue Shift project. It's a bit like that Exquisite Corpse game that some of you will have, the Victorian parlour game that some of you might have played, where you see the line before, but in this case you either saw the artwork if you were a poet, or you saw the poem if you were an artist, and then you had to respond to that, and then they were published together in a book. And I have to say that I was slightly dismayed when I got Sheena Drayton's beautiful, beautiful painting, abstract painting of a fruit bowl. You will see why. 2 years configured in a fruit bowl. Our placement had to be exact, a Dulux match. I found the relationship between things untranslatable, tried to leave myself out of it, but the mould I had grown blotted the hues of my creation in shameful patina. Miss said my perspective was all wrong, while parts of me rotted dark in corners. My fingerprints showed through the canvas. Later, when the bowl had bled into oblivion, I learned for myself to paint things in different colours, that a puckered pear could at once be a woman, its stalk an umbilical cord to that red of closed eyes on sunstruck days. We kept what was precious, cross-hatched behind them. With the news of universal credit being reduced, this poem came to mind again. It's Austerity is the title. Hear it scutter along the guttering of offices, in the bins behind Waitrose, the thorned bushes at the playground's edge, a language devised by the highborn to parch the lips of those with less. Live here too long, and it will shudder down your throat like flu. You will wake one morning aching with it, all other tongues you know forgotten. The vernacular of the workers, lexicons of children with little, dialects of kindness, the diction of being human. And finally, has anybody managed to have an apple crumble yet? Well, Howard, you best get onto it, because everybody else has, it seems. I've managed to have one so far. It's very nice. This poem features some apples, but it's summer fair. It's a late summer fair. The day the doctor lifts his curse, she emerges blinking, swifting the future. His pardon almost enough to make her believe again. But it is the coony pig that seals her faith. How it folds its ear like a Masonic secret, buries its breath in the hay, then resurfaces, revived. It's not what is missing, but what is superfluous. Apples that give themselves to the ground, the human capacity for song, those beautiful, useless tufts that hang from the sow's chin like bunting. She wishes she was so small she could swing from them, feel the heat of its glottal stop on her back. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to hearing all of your work as well, those of you who are going to read.